My name is Don Knarr. I own Don Knarr Remediation, Inc. We do water, wind, fire, mold, asbestos, lead, and any nasty thing you can think of. I started this company in 2003, and for the first 2 years, I was scared out of my mind most of the time because we're dealing with some pretty dangerous stuff, and we're also dealing with people's homes. And they are scared and upset, and there's a lot going on. So, in 2005, I get called into this house down in Franklin. The gentleman that lived there was an 85-year-old man. His name was Lyon Tyler. Mr. Tyler's wife had passed away the year before of respiratory failure, and he was having respiratory failure. So he went down to Florida to get better. He got better, came back to his house, and within a couple days, he was sick again. He realized that he had a problem. He had an inspection done by a mold inspection company, and sure enough, where the master bedroom was, the wall that separated the master bedroom from the master bath had a water leak. There was a sink there, and it had been running forever, and it was full of really heavy black Stachybotrys, which is the mold everybody likes to talk about on TV. It's the scary mold, extremely toxic to us, and it was right behind his head every time he slept. So Mr. Tyler lived in a 1910 farmhouse that his wife's family was deeded this land for fighting in the Revolutionary War. So it's been in their family for a long time, has a lot of feelings for it. So we go in, and our protocol states that you have to remediate mold 2 feet from the last point of infection. So the infection's here, we go 2 feet, we keep finding mold, we go 2 more feet, we keep finding mold, we go 2 more feet, we keep finding mold, we go 8 feet, and my guy looks at me and goes, "What do we do now?" I said, "I don't know, we've never gone 8 feet from the last point of infection." So I go walking around this house, I go upstairs, I go to different corners, I do a little investigating, and sure enough, the entire house is engulfed in mold because again, it's a 1910 farmhouse with no insulation and plaster and lathe. So on the back of the lathe is just tons of mold. So I come out and I look at Dr. Tyler and I said, "Dr. Tyler," I said, "we got 2 choices." I said, "We either fire me and you put it back, or we have to demo the whole house." "Well, I'm not tearing the house down," he says, "but I want to save it. So we got to demo the entire house." Now, Mr. Tyler was 85 years old, and he was a university professor. So he was retired before computers became prevalent. So he had his entire life with him. Imagine a house that had magazine stacks 8 feet high, all over the place, all with his own Dewey Decimal System, but it was all organized. Newspapers, Wall Street Times, everything stacked 8 feet high. All this junk everywhere, lots of old stuff. I mean, the newest piece of furniture in this place was a 1980 Zenith television, okay? Old. And I'm like, oh my God, we got to pack all this stuff out. We've got to clean it because it's all mold infested, and we got to put it into storage. I'm like, okay. So I go to Ms. Tyler. Ms. Tyler, I said, "We've got to take everything out that is of great personal or financial value." And he goes, "Okay." And I got my clipboard, and he grabs this little box, and he goes, "Now be careful with this. This is a gift from the Emperor of China to my grandfather." And I went, "Gift?" I'm sorry, what? And he goes, "This is a gift from the Emperor of China to my grandfather." I said, "Who's your grandfather?" He goes, "He was the president." I said, "The president of what?" He goes, "The United States." I said, "Who's your grandfather?" He goes, "President Tyler." And I went, "You mean your grandfather, right?" He goes, "No, my grandfather was 75 when he had my father. My father was 72 when he had me, and I'm 85 years old." And I was like, "So Tippecanoe and Tyler too, that's your grandfather?" He goes, "That's pretty good. Most people don't even get that right." So then he goes, "Now be careful with this stuff. This is Queen Anne furniture." "Oh, be careful with this. This armoire was a gift from Napoleon III to my grandfather." "Oh, be careful with this. This is an original." "An original what?" I say. "A Whistler," he says. "Like Whistler's mother?" Same guy. So we're moving into the next room. There is a hand-drawn map of Pennsylvania, Maryland, and Virginia. He says, "Now be careful with this. This is a hand-drawn map of this area by Thomas Jefferson's father." And it keeps going on and on and on. So now all this junk is priceless American history. He had all his grandfather's memoirs, personal diaries. His great uncle was the Secretary of the Treasury for the Confederacy. So he had Confederate money laying around everywhere. And then we go into the back room, and my head's spinning at this time, and there's this huge oil painting of this man, and I say, "Who's that?" He goes, that's my dad. And being the smart ass that I am, I go, really, what was he president of? And he goes, William and Mary. And I was like, yeah, of course. So now we've got to take all this priceless American artifacts, we got to take it outside, we got to clean it, we got to package it, and we got to ship it off to a conditioned storage space. And that's what we did. I said we got to throw out all these newspapers, all these magazines. No, we can't do that. I got to have it. So we had to take all that stuff out, put it into plastic bins, shrink wrap it, and send it off. You can't open them because they're full of mold, but he could not live with the fact that he couldn't get access to them if he needed them. He understood that they were full of mold. The memoirs from his grandfather had to be shipped off to Chicago to be freeze-dried because they were full of mold. The whole house was just totally engulfed, and we were able to pull everything out, and then on top of that, we had to demo the entire house down to the sticks and then start over. So we were able to do that, and that is when I said to myself, okay, I'm a remediator. There's nothing else I can do from here to the end of time that'll beat this. This was my Super Bowl. Because when you're trained to do this kind of work, when you go off for training, they teach you to do big areas, do big areas. Like during the flood, I was able to do part of Opryland. I did an 85,000 square foot commercial property. I play with big toys, lots of fans, structural drying equipment. And, that's what I'm trained for. They figure if you take something big, you can extrapolate it down to when you do a small floor. So that's what I do.